Hello everyone and welcome back to Faithful to the Traitors. We're in a dungeon, yes it's correct. One of us is faithful, one of us may be a traitor. I'm Ben and I'm sitting in this cold wet slab and I am a faithful, so I'm hoping to not be murdered in a minute.
Well, what an introduction. You sounded almost
Topical.
sad for yourself.
Topical.
Sad for yourself. Why do you don't get what is it what you can get? You can get something if you sit on something cold and wet, can't you?
No.
Yeah.
Piles?
Piles, yes. Mind you don't get piles. That's the last thing you need if you're going to be accused of being a traitor. Hello, I'm Alex. I'm also a faithful. Or am I a traitor that deliberately put myself down in this cold, dank dungeon thinking that people would think that I'm not? Because it's just obvious that you're going to put yourself down there. Or is it obvious? Is it a bluff or is it a double bluff? Is it common sense? Did Paul think he's the most popular person that no one would ever think he's a traitor? And now he's the third most popular person to think he thinks he is a traitor.
Yeah.
It's all very confusing. Very confusing. And it's all very upsetting for Paul as well because everyone thinks that, well, he thinks that he's safe and now slowly he's becoming unsafe. And on that note, I'd like to read out a message that someone sent to us on our Instagram. Incidentally, if you guys want to get in touch with us on Instagram, it's at Faithful to the Traitors, on our X account at Traitors Podcast, or you can email us faithfultothetraitors@gmail.com. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can comment underneath. You can also comment if you're listening to us on Spotify. So send in your comments. Nathan sent in his comment on Instagram and he said, "You have got it all wrong with Paul. He is not the leader of the traitor pack. Absolutely not. His choice for new traitor ignored. His choice for first murder ignored. His choice for second murder ignored. Tried to throw Andrew under the bus in the scarecrow task for going for the shield ignored. And finally voting for Jazz at the round table, which he was wrong to do. Harry, using his stupid army guy stereotype, will bring him the riches." Thank you, Nathan, by the way, for getting in touch with us on Instagram and giving that comment.
I'm not sure how much. I don't know if this is maybe saying that Harry is doing a good job, but I'm not sure how much of Harry's "I'm a bit not thick." What's the word? "I'm a bit silly" or "stupid." Is an act. Because
But do you think he's
either acting very well, or he is a Joey Essex, a real Joey Essex. I don't know which one it is.
I think he's putting it on because no one who rises up in the army surely is that kind of like naive to the world. But he's also
Penny Mordaunt. No, she was in the Navy, wasn't she?
Was she? Is she
allegedly
as well carrying that big sword?
Yeah.
Okay. But I just can't see it. Again, this is what I said in the last episode. If I was in that pack, if I was in the group of faithful looking for a traitor, the way Harry is acting, for me, feels really super suspicious. It's weird that no one else seems to be thinking that.
He's using his pretty privilege.
But Johnny's surprising me as well, because Johnny is also ex-military. And you think someone like Johnny would be like, I'd think Johnny would be kind of like, no, you don't, no, not giving me that kind of
Maybe you hide people in military power too highly. And all they are is just pretty 22-year-old boys running around.
No, they're very courageous people fighting for our country, and I think we should respect them for that.
That's not what I can see here.
I'm sorry for Ben's disrespect to anyone who's in any of the armed forces.
The only one who gives me that
to his behalf
description out of this lot, the only one that gives me that description out of this lot is Diane. She's military.
No, she's militant. She is militant.
If I saw the lineup and they said one of these people's in the military, Diane.
She walked into the breakfast room and it reminded me of like being a student at school and like the class is like completely ruckus. The bell's just rung and the teacher comes in and everyone suddenly goes, and she's like, "Everyone quiet down," and starts slapping a ruler on the table. She had that look on her. It was very frightening. Diane.
She did a very confident announcement that I'm dead tomorrow, so these are the traitors.
Yes, do you know who she said?
Well, two of them were wrong.
Well, yes, obviously Ash, Megan and Anthony. But two of them were in the dungeon, and I think, again, Diane is directing this game maybe slightly. Paul took note of that and immediately said, well, actually, I say Paul. It wasn't Paul. It was Miles who immediately said, "Let's put Meg into the dungeon." But we should say before any of that, there was a banishment. And it was a banishment of our favourite man. We thought, we were dead set that Anthony was going to vote for Diane. And that it was going to be a coin toss. We were saying, why would they put it in the edit? There'd be no reason to put it in the edit. There must be that.
We're always correct when we say these things.
We're just as good as Tracy when it comes to predicting the future. And but Brian got voted out. I mean, he really did get himself in that situation, didn't he?
I know, yes. It's very sad. The eye candy of the series gone so soon.
But do you know what it's time for?
Oh, here it is. Wait.
I knew you weren't prepared for this.
I am. I was about to read out an email, but it's fine. Right. I've got comments and emails from the beginning still to go, but it's okay.
Look, shall we do Brian's fact file?
Okay, just wait a second, then we'll go. Are you ready, Brian?
What's your name and where do you come from?
Brian.
He's from Scotland, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Because on his Instagram, he's only just down the road.
Right. That's
Brian,
a bit
if you want to meet up for
stalkery.
a coffee.
There's room on the set. In the middle.
Come join us here. You can play with my PT.
He's a photographer, so he can take our pictures for...
If you want to do promo shots for nothing, other than the love of being part of the show, then, oh my God, honest to God, Brian, if you want to get in touch,
Right.
I'm inviting him in.
Okay, well, I'm going to do his fact file.
You have to clean the house.
Nah.
Oh,
He's used to dungeons. Brian is taking part in the show for the experience, meaning he's not going in with a game plan.
that was a bad game plan.
The 33-year-old
Teeny.
the 33-year-old photographer comes from Glasgow. That's in
Scotland.
That's correct.
Just down the road.
And describes himself as forgetful and bossy, my two favourite things. He thinks the clue to a good game, whether faithful or traitor, is, quote, being very aware of how I'm acting with other people, observing others and taking notes when I'm alone at night.
Right.
It sounds like my type of man.
I think that literally the first line of that fact file kind of explained what happened to Brian, because he even said it. He even said it when he was like starting to panic a little bit. He said, I thought this was going to be fun. I thought this was going to be like a bit of a fun excursion, get me out of the house for a couple of days. And I don't think he kind of realised the severity of being around that table and how serious it can become. And unfortunately, as I said, that was Brian's sad demise and undoing.
Well, it's very upsetting, but we'll forever remember his outfit.
Yes. So there you go. His white t-shirt, shirt combination.
Yeah, or black vest, shirt, white shirt combination. Halter. Yeah.
Combination.
Right, so breakfast then.
No emails?
Oh, you're kind of reading everything out, aren't I? Okay, so you can go in contact with all sorts of things. We've got emails. This one's from Graham. It says...
You just said...
You can get in contact with us on anything.
It sounded like you'd had a drink. Emails.
I'm doing a Brian.
You are doing a Brian.
Is or isn't. What was the word he said?
Oh,
Apparently that's a Scottish word. Did you know that? It's not actually him mumbling his words. It's a Scottish word.
maybe it's a Glaswegian
Amant.
word.
Amant.
I'm amant.
Anyway, Graham
This is what you come for, this kind of brain fog.
I'm not that patriotic, but I have to admit that I'm feeling proud of the obvious fact that we know how to do television so much better than any of the other lesser nations. It's clear
Nations?
other lesser nations.
You said Leicester Nations.
No, I didn't.
You're making up words
Christ.
now.
It's clear levels above. The editing, it's amazing. Quick owl insert. I love this show.
Owls. I want to talk about owls real quick.
Okay.
Owls. Owls seem to be the theme of this series.
It's the same owl.
But they keep showing an owl, and they have a stained glass above the door, which is an owl. I feel like there's something leading. What could it be? Is it showing wisdom? Is it the people, like the wisdom of the budget?
Owls are expensive.
What? So you're saying the BBC have doubled the budget,
Yeah.
budget regards this year?
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. And to be fair, this has got nothing at all to do with the show specifically. But the UK do television very well.
Okay.
If we
Right.
can say so.
So you can also comment on YouTube, you said, right? So
Yeah,
someone commented
comment
underneath
underneath our videos. If you're watching us on YouTube, just search, not comment below, although that's another podcast we do, just search Faithful to the Traitors podcast on YouTube and you should find us there.
I'm not sure that Harry and Paul will last as long as I think one will betray the other. I didn't think Ash was that obvious, but she might go. Also, please read this comment out and try to pronounce my username. That is from FJSDNSODBODB on YouTube.
But just
Also-
sod boobs.
And Shannon commented on Spotify saying, I love the podcast, guys. My partner and I listen religiously for the first series. We also think Zach looks like Anthony Fantano, especially in the final.
Who's Anthony? Anthony? Of the final of what? Is that
the
another?
final? No. I don't know. That says. I don't know what that says. In the flannel. What's a flannel?
In the flannel.
I think it may be a typo. But anyway, he's a YouTuber that they
This is
think.
thrilling. Right, let's talk about the game.
Right.
Okay.
I'm
Right.
going to read out everyone's comments.
The breakfast table. I mean, we've had lots of comments. I feel like you've selected possibly the ones that are very telling. We want people to tell us what they think the gameplay is going to be like. Share with us your gameplay. But thank you for listening as well. We do appreciate you guys listening or indeed watching us. Now, the breakfast table. Everyone came in. There was no one who was banned. Well, there were 4 people who weren't there. And they're the 4 people who, in a twist at Traitor Tower by Claudia, were put in the dungeon. And they're all up they're in condemnation. And one of the 4 will be murdered. Now, the 4 that was decided was Paul, because he wanted to put himself up, because, to quote him, I'm popular.
Yeah,
Ash,
no chance of me going.
no chance of him going. Ash, because she wanted to take suspicion
I'm
off
not
herself.
popular.
Yes, but that kind of backfired for her immediately. Andrew, because Ash, he had put Ash forward. Andrew had voted for and put her name forward. But then later on, we found out that it wasn't Andrew who had put her name forward when we got to the round table later, which was a bit weird. And Meg, because a lot of people were starting to suspect her as being a traitor
Not
too.
Meg.
So, and although Harry did throw caution, again, another identification to show that Harry's not so dumb after all. He's quite smart. He was the only one who piped up of the 4 traitors and said, I don't think it's such a great idea that 2 traitors should go into the dungeon. And to be fair, that's probably not too inaccurate.
Claudia was worried around the lake edge, wasn't she?
She was later on, but that's after the game. Let's not jump to forward too quickly.
She was showing her worriness.
She was
to the camera.
worried later, but not yet. At the moment, she was excited that they were putting 2
Different
traitors.
makeup this year on her, I've noticed.
I
series.
feel like you're really distracted on this episode.
No, I'm just saying. I noticed her makeup's different than last series.
You're jumping all over the place.
I'm just mentioning Claudia. She had a turtleneck on too.
Did she?
Mm-hmm.
She had very deep blue eyes as well. Did you see the sun shining on her eyes?
No.
No. So at the breakfast table, Ash and Meg, Paul thought that Ash and Meg was a double... Hang on. What have I written here? Zach kept putting Paul's name out there, saying that he's too calm, and that Jazz is also mentioning Paul's name as well, saying that he is kind of like showing a weird smugness and confidence.
Mm-hmm. I like that Zach. I wasn't sure on Zach to begin with, but I'm growing to like him because he is spotting everything correctly, even though he's a bit smug.
But he's not spotting everything correctly, though, is he? Because he put his own
He's
life...
spotting Paul.
Yeah, but he's putting his own life on the line this at the round table later on, because he...
Now who's jumping ahead?
Well, because, but I'm just joining in with your conversation, because he said that he was confident that Ash wasn't a traitor. So that's kind of put him now into the spotlight.
I know, they're all going to think he's a traitor because he's trying to save a traitor.
Yes.
I know, I did think that when it all went down at the end, that annoyed me. But up until then, he was playing a really good game, because something happened this episode and I've turned on Paul. Don't know what's happened.
I don't like that he reminds me of Muttley from the... You know what I mean? The way every time he says anything, he kind of goes... Every time he's like has a little laugh to himself. And at the beginning, it was quite funny. He was quite endearing, and you kind of thought, oh, he's quite cool. But now it's getting annoying, and it's starting, and this is dangerous, Paul, to have Sam Australia Series 2 vibes. It's starting to have those vibes, and we all know what we all thought of Sam in Series 2 of Australian Traitors.
Lovely to look at, but not for that long.
And also annoying.
Yeah, it's very difficult being a traitor on an edit, especially for me, because you have to have something. You have to be like cunning and like ruthless, but like not play the game mean or annoying. It's like a very fine balance for me to root for the traitor to win, depending on how I'm seeing the episode. And this episode, something happened where I was just getting a bit like, I think I prefer it if Paul got voted out.
Which is a strong possibility.
Because I love a traitor, but
yeah, it's the way he's traitoring, if you know what I mean. It's like Harry. Yes, he's playing the game, and yes, he's backstabbed, and yes, he's kind of he is playing a decent.
There's something authentic about him, though, and Miles is actually doing a very good job. I think I've discounted Miles completely. I don't think I even talked about him yet, but I think he's doing quite good, and he's being fairly loyal to Ash. But then when he had to, he kind of voted for her. But yeah, Paul, I think it's the smugness or the arrogance of Paul's game I don't like.
I agree. It's like he genuinely thinks that he can't put a foot out of step, and he's I think he felt like really surprised when he wasn't saved from the dungeon after the game, and because he genuinely thought that everyone. But it goes back to what we said on the last episode, which is that as soon as someone gets the confidence vote of most popular player, which Paul got, suddenly their ego becomes bigger than themselves and the gameplay falls out of place a little bit. Paul's ego is stepping ahead of himself, and so he's not thinking quite so coherently or straight anymore. And it's weird because, like you said about like him, like his bits to the camera or to where the producers are asking him questions, and he's like just him, it's his own like vox pop thing. He's I don't know, he feels like he's almost not. He's not even believing what he's saying himself. He's almost got a split personality. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? It feels like he's got a split personality there. Like when he's talking to the camera.
That's why he laughs at everything, because he doesn't really believe.
He doesn't believe what he's saying, yeah. And that confidence boost kind of has brought an arrogance out of him, which then is not endearing. So, and I think, again, that's something that other players are starting to see. So what used to be a nice thing about Paul, something you can relatable to Paul, which is like he's very friendly, very approachable, quite confident but not arrogant with it, has now almost gone too far that he's now become very arrogant, and Jazz and Zach are both seeing that.
But when they called him out, he started crying. He turned the waterworks on.
Naughty Paul, because he used his children in order to get the votes pushed away. I mean, that, I don't know, I think
I commend him for that.
Do you? I think that's a line sometimes that you shouldn't cross. That you start using your
someone else who stood out to me.
Only kids,
only children. Something else that stood out to me on this episode, who has come out, who I think is going to be one to watch, is Jasmine.
Yes,
she's playing good game. She's saying what she wants to say. She's not getting things pointed. I think she's one to watch. By the way. Jasmine, and there was another one, Charlotte. I like Charlotte. She can be a bit hot-headed, Charlotte, around the round table, but I think she's quite popular and listened to when they go off to do their chats.
Yeah.
So watch out for them.
Yeah, I agree. I like Charlotte and Jasmine as well. Jasmine is Jasmine's almost kind of starts taking on the more controlled role. Again, something that Paul used to have, and I feel like Jasmine's now kind of diverting the traffic a little bit better and kind of pushing people from one way to the other. And funnily enough, it's kind of getting some people's back up. It's weird that this kind of like when people start to speak out, votes start to creep in as well. Curiously, Diane didn't get any votes at the round table this episode. Curiously.
Well, Andrew did say to the group, come on, let's focus our votes and get a traitor. So they listened.
They did.
It was pretty much unanimous. The votes, like we said, apart from Zach and a few others, didn't vote for her. But
well, Andrew, so what we should say then is, so the 4 people got into the dungeon, which was Paul, Ash, Andrew and Meg. Paul and Ash obviously are traitors. After the game, the red team won unanimously, and they
jumped over those bits in the river.
The bridge, the wobbly bridge, and they won the task and the opportunity to get someone out of the dungeon, as it were, so they can't be murdered that evening.
Paul thought it was going to be him.
The team
Meg didn't think it was going to be her.
The team that won didn't have any traitors in it, so then they didn't have the opportunity to try to control people's opinions. So then when people weren't being controlled, they weren't voting for Paul. Actually, thank you very much, Paul. You're maybe falling on your feet a little bit, not quite actually this time. Andrew got voted to be saved. Now, the interesting part is, as Ben quite rightly said when Claudia was wearing slightly different makeup around the lake, is that because Andrew can no longer be murdered, if Meg should be banished from the round table, it would literally leave only 2 traitors
Who would have exposed?
who could be murdered. Traitor can't murder a traitor. So then the next morning, with the round table, when they realise there's no one been murdered, questions will start coming out, and it almost straight away basically says that Paul
Both
and
of them,
Ash are traitors.
So, yeah, the two Miles and Harry had to vote out Ash or Paul basically, because otherwise it was going to expose 2 of them instead of 1 of them. But quite a few people are suspicious of Meg, but the way this is landed now, that Meg's the only one who can get murdered on the next episode, so that's a bit of a shame. Like, we already know.
Well, we know who's getting murdered.
Meg.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I mean. It's a bit of a shame.
But Meg didn't get any votes. This is the funny thing. Before the round table took place after the game, Miles and Harry were both privy to lots of conversations of people discussing Meg being voted for. And they knew they had to quickly divert the traffic or the votes away from Meg. And it was quite successful. So it goes to show again, perhaps our friend on Instagram and perhaps Paul's control isn't quite as strong as he believes it is, because Harry and Miles kind of saved Paul. Now, will Paul thank them for this later on, or will Paul then start trying to find someone to team up with, either Miles or Harry, to then get rid of the other one? This is the interesting.
Him and Harry are going to team up, aren't they? Let's be honest. Against Paul Miles.
I know, but I think Harry's being dumb here. I think Miles and Harry should now see this as an opportunity to work together.
Yeah, well, that's
noticing that Paul is the one getting, because Paul's got a vote. Paul got a vote from Jazz.
They did the same to Ash when she got a name. They're
right.
Like, we have to get rid of you. So yeah, they should, because no one's questioned Miles, no one's questioned Harry. So yeah, but that's not going to happen, is it?
Jasmine got a vote from Meg, but that's because Jasmine voted for Meg. Yeah.
One of those.
Evie got a vote from Ash. But that's, again, a wasted opportunity by Ash at the round table. Ash should have realised that perhaps...
Vote for traitor.
Yes, she should have realised that the wind was blowing in her direction and that she was definitely going out. I mean, she must have seen the way that this was going. She must have seen it, because everyone was going... At one point, everyone around the round table, bar Zach, really was kind of basically saying, yeah, Ash, we think it's you. So Ash should have had this opportunity. And she even said before she turned the board, it's like, we really need to start rethinking this, guys. And I thought, I genuinely thought you put Paul's name down.
Or Harry, like someone completely random, like Harry out of nowhere.
No, yeah. Paul's name down. Because then when she exposed herself as being a traitor, it straight away exposes Paul. I mean, I know it's
a little bit against the rules, though.
No, it's not. It's. I'm sorry, but no. If someone plays against you, if someone on your team attacks you, you expose them back. That's the way I'm sorry, but that's the way this game is played, and you have to do that. Well,
Ash was holding her.
It's spite, and I love it. It's delicious.
Ash went through as a traitor and never voted for a traitor, so she held her head high. But sometimes died.
Where does principles get you?
Well,
exactly, dead.
Yeah.
Well, not dead, banished.
Oh, yeah.
Ash isn't dead. She's been banished. She's been taken away from the game.
A weird edit, because we didn't get to see her say I'm a traitor. So that's a bit odd. It's not like we're here guessing, BBC.
Yes, which is making me wonder what the reaction was around the table.
Or she says, I'm a faithful.
Well, yeah, can you imagine? Or she says...
double traitor.
Well, or she says something and it again exposes someone, because that was a weird way to end.
They're not allowed to expose someone in their speech, though. They've signed things.
Oh, is that...
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the first series...
So you're not allowed to say... Yeah. You're not allowed to say things like that. You have to just say...
I would just wink at Paul. I would
weird edit, but it's hard to edit this episode because we already know Meg's dying too. So there's no clip. The last episode there was 4 cliffhangers. This episode, well done,
and a cliffhanger that we didn't expect to happen because we thought Anthony was a sure bet to vote for Diane, and he wasn't.
Anthony looks like he's bored of the game.
No, Anthony looked angry all the time. Like he's doesn't want to be, like you said, doesn't want to be there anymore. Like when they were doing the challenge and they had to pick their team, Anthony looked visibly upset because he was the second to last voted for the team. And he's like,
last.
Well, exactly. He wasn't voted. Ross was voted last. Yeah. No, Ross wasn't. That's a lie. Johnny was voted last.
Johnny.
Oh, can we talk about Ross and Diane as well quickly? Because they had they almost got found out by Evie. I think it was Evie or Charlie. As we know, it's a blonde woman, and we don't know which one.
Blonde white women.
Blonde white women, all look the same. But
I think it was Evie.
Evie was being sneaky as well, to be fair, and they found her doing it. They said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Oh, sorry, I was just listening in." Diane and Ross were talking. Luckily, they didn't expose they were mother and son. But when they were talking to each other, it was really interesting because Ross said that neither of them know whether each other is a traitor or a faithful. They've not said that to each other yet.
Not allowed to.
Well, they could lie to each other if they wanted to, and that's what I found interesting. What it gets to a point where one of them is made a traitor, and then the other one has to vote for them. How awkward!
Yeah.
How awkward would Sunday dinner be?
Recruited.
That Diane is cooking for
She
her
makes
son.
rubbish roasting him.
Well, yeah, but she's going to pour that gravy straight onto his lap if she gets voted by him, don't you think? Yeah. But that's a really interesting thought. Because we've not really had that happen. Because in the last series of the UK series, obviously, well, it's not a spoiler, but I'm sure if you're watching this, you've seen series 1 of the UK Traitors.
Not necessarily.
I'm sure they have.
Trish from Big Brother UK watched series 1 by accident when she thought she was watching series 2. And then she stopped watching
There you
series
go.
1.
So they see series
Yeah,
1.
and then she stopped, then started watching series 2 and didn't watch series 1. So you're wrong.
Yes, but the breakfast
Carry on.
table episode 3, when basically it got exposed when Alex and his girlfriend were in a relationship.
Yes.
If that had gone further, what if they would have had to vote for each other? And that's what I'm really. This is something new that we've not seen on this show.
They wouldn't be able to. They'd then question him. Ross, why did you not vote for Diana? It's obviously the traitor.
That's what I'm saying.
You have similar eyes. And then it will all just go from there.
They have
But you've just
similar eyes. They have similar eyes
No, I'm
at
just
all.
saying because they're related.
But do you think Ross would be pressured, or indeed Diane would be pressured to vote for their son or mother?
Diane wouldn't care. She'd do it.
Do you think she would?
Yeah, she's got to do
Do you
it.
think she'll be that callous?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think Diane
Then she'll
could.
take over presenting series 3.
I'm sorry, but I don't think Diane could. I really
Got,
don't think Diane could.
2 questions here. Emails just come in, everyone.
Oh,
Ding! From James. Hi, guys. I'm really enjoying the podcast. 2 quick cues. That's short for questions.
yeah.
1. Although Paul has played a good game thus far, does his smugness lead you to want him being caught out?
Yes.
We've already answered that, haven't we? Do you think the way Miles keeps trotting out the "I have no idea" line will lead to suspicion, or will he keep getting away with it?
I think he's getting away with it because he's genuinely looks a bit rabbit in headlights the whole time. Miles is, I don't know if it's an act or whether it's a genuine thing, and that he kind of gets very uncomfortable in a group setting when he has to lie. But you can tell a tell of his lying, and which we can see from watching from the outside in, is the fact that he gets quite emotional and quite upset and quite confused, almost like what Brian was like, but because in this occasion he's a traitor, it's working for Miles as well. So almost Miles and Harry are playing almost the identical game of that they're kind of putting on this kind of persona where they're a little bit like, oh, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So yes, that's interesting.
When you were talking about Diana and Ross,
Diana Ross.
that's when I was getting the original email up before that one came up. This one is about Diana Ross, which you were asking about. This is from Catherine, basically asking, when do you think the Diana Ross thing is going to be exposed, or will it be revealed? My instinct is it's not going to be too long before one of them cracks, and I think it'll be Ross that cracks. At the round table on episode 3, the blonde girl number 2, brackets, maybe Charlie.
Maybe Charlie, we just don't know.
Raised
Blonde and they're white.
Exactly. Raised suspicions about Diane, and Ross was straight away in there to try and defend her. So maybe that will give
Ross has
it away.
defended his mum, Diane, on more than one occasion.
And she said silly things.
Diane hasn't really returned the favour, but hasn't really needed to yet. And also Ross has actually called his own mum out as well, in saying to her that he thinks she's wrong about the people.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, saying that she's.
It's obvious that
making
he's
the wrong
watched, because she says she's not watched the show. I think it's obvious she hasn't watched the show. She's just going out there playing it how she
but
wants.
she was saying on her Instagram before we found out about Ross that she was convinced to do the show because her family said that she couldn't do something like this. So that makes it even more weirder that she applied for the show. Do you think she applied for the show?
I think Ross applied with her. And you know, on episode 1, and I said someone tweeted saying their mum was on the Traitors and they didn't.
Oh, you excited?
And they didn't realise. Wait.
Silence, please.
They didn't realise it was her. That was another brother. So he then said, I didn't know my brother was on there too.
Oh, I see.
So there you go.
So
Got something in my throat.
They're on it.
I know. So it's very odd. But apparently she's never watched the show.
Is the thing in your throat the guilt of knowing that you're actually
Brian.
also on the Traitors later on in the series as the extra contestant.
That will take us into
Imagine if you came onto the set and just took off this owl costume and went, it's me, Ben, from the podcast. I'd like that.
There you go then. So we've reached our half an hour. We have no predictions to make. Who do you think's getting murdered? Any guesses?
God, I haven't even thought about. Oh no, Meg. Of course,
Right, yeah,
Meg.
that's the joke. Well done.
Sorry, yeah, I got.
Yeah, poor Meg. I feel sorry that we.
Well, Meg's the only one who can be murdered.
I know.
Unless they do another twist and they say Meg can either be recruited or murdered. They might do that. You never know.
There's still 3 traitors. I don't know.
Well, it'd be a stupid thing to recruit her because, again, that will then expose them as being that one of them has to be a traitor.
Yeah.
So that'd be a stupid thing to do.
Right, so if everyone wants to get their comments read out in the emails, because clearly
before
we
you get
do
vetted beforehand.
how can they do that?
Well, please get in touch and please let us know your thoughts about any gameplay scenarios by finding us on X at Traitors Podcast, on Instagram at Faithful to the Traitors Podcast, or you can email us faithfultothetraitors@gmail.com. As I say, you can watch us on YouTube by searching Faithful to the Traitors Podcast. If you do find us, don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, and put the thumbs up to say, yay, I really enjoyed this, and you'll never miss a future episode of the podcast. You can also subscribe on any of your favourite podcast apps, and if you are enjoying listening to us, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review and comment with your 5-star review with, I don't know, a nice little poem about Brian. And it had to start, there once was a guy named Brian. There you go. That'd be nice. I'd enjoy that. And as I say, Brian, you're more than welcome to come visit us and take a photograph of...
Right. Well, I am going to end this now. Thank you, everyone, because I cannot talk and I'm about to
Well, would you like
cough
to end
again.
It? You sound like you're about to have a coughing fit.
We'll see you tomorrow for another episode, isn't it?
Okay.
We're 2 minutes over. You're not going to be on live TV with this track record.
I don't want to be on live TV. I like recording it. It means I can talk nonsense forever and ever.
So we'll see you.
Bye.
Silence, please. Silence, please.
See you tomorrow. Goodbye.